sentence. You can't make
That could be tough.
multiple sentences into one sentence. What is the single metric that will define AI success this year? That's in the 2077 calendar year. Is it margin expansion, for example? Or is it time to market? Or is it employee retention? What do you think, Joe?
I would say that the single defining ROI statistic is going to be the division of resources input to output. It's going to be almost like what a Sharpe ratio is. If you think about Sharpe ratio, it's going to be the Sharpe ratio of AI.
Okay, 3 sentences then. Dina.
I think it's all three, depending on who you ask, right? I mean, if you're asking a CEO, he's going to say margin expansion. If you're talking to, someone who's, in charge of the cultural aspect of the organization, they're going to say retention, right?
The CEO.
Yeah.
As CEO,
As CEO, for me, it's all three. I mean, I care about the client experience, and I care about making money for the firm, and I care about my people being happy. Okay. And I've achieved all three with what we've done in AI, just so you know.
All right. Marcelo?
So I'll take a little longer just to give a little preamble. The last 2 years, the world has invested hundreds of billions of dollars in building AI, right? We invested in power, in data centers, we have invested in semiconductors, and we have invested in LLMs or applications.
$660 billion by the hyperscalers.
One of the biggest investments in the history of mankind.
Yeah.
2026 will be defined by the application of AI to the enterprise. It is time to grab this incredible technology and actually put it to work to generate real benefits to mankind. Whether it's ROI, whether it's better healthcare, whether it's better education, I think 2026 and 2027 will be the years that mark where this technology comes to life and it actually creates effect on business and people.
Okay. Last word from...
I hope in the next year or two, there will be some conceptual breakthrough to how we approach intelligence. I think we should have a higher standard for the word intelligence beyond productivity and efficiency, which is very useful. So don't get me wrong. So I think the future is great. We should focus on the future. This is not the end of the story. That's my point.
No, I'm going to take moderator's view. So I just want to mention one thing at risk of 8 seconds to go. There was a guy called Hubert Joly who became CEO of Best Buy in Minneapolis, ex-McKinsey. And he walks into Best Buy, and it's to turn them from a bricks and mortar retailer to a digital retailer. So slightly different, but same thing. I'm getting time in here. And he comes in, and they keep on telling him when he gets into Minneapolis, it's about change management. And after 6 months, he realizes it is about change management, and he changes the management. I leave you with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sir Martin, thank you very much, and thanks to your panel as well. That's okay. In just a moment, we are going to welcome to this stage His Excellency Julius Maada Bio. He is the President of the Republic of Sierra Leone, and he will be delivering a keynote on Africa's demographic momentum and the policies and investments that could turn that nation into a long-term economic engine. His Excellency has served as the President of Sierra Leone since April of 2018. Sierra Leone has had a history of political upheaval and challenges in economic recovery, as many of you well know. President Bio has been focused consistently on education with free primary and secondary school education in his nation. Now, after his remarks, Richard will come back to do an interview with His Excellency to get a better understanding of the investment opportunities in Africa and to examine if Africa could be a good partner for the United States and Latin America. Thank you. Please join me in welcoming His Excellency Julius Maada Bio.
Thank you.
Your Highnesses, Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I bring you very warm greetings from the great people of Sierra Leone and West Africa as a whole. It is a great honor for me to be here today as the keynote speaker and distinguished guest of honor at this fourth edition of the FII Summit here in Miami. Allow me first to express my sincere appreciation to FII Institute, His Excellency Yasir Al-Ramayan, Richard Atias, and distinguished leaders supporting this great and important global forum. Through this initiative, ladies and gentlemen, you've created a space where investors, innovators, and policymakers come together, not only to discuss the future of the global economy, but also help to shape it. This is precisely what this summit represents. FII gatherings are not simply forums of conversation, normally called talk shops. They are actually places where partnerships are formed, where strategies are refined, and where capital begins to move towards opportunities of tomorrow. And today, that moment is accelerating. Ladies and gentlemen, we meet at a moment when the global economy is navigating an increasingly complex and shifting landscape. Conflicts in parts of the Middle East, ongoing war in Ukraine, instability in some parts of Africa, and all of this remind us that geopolitics continues to shape economic realities in a profound way. These developments are influencing how nations think about energy security, food systems, technology, supply chains, and long-term economic resilience. For decades, as we know, globalization was driven primarily by efficiency. The search for lower cost and fast production networks. Today, that calculus is changing. Resilience matters. Diversification matters. Strategic alignment matters. Across global markets, capital is being repositioned to respond to these shifts, which is why the theme for this summit, Capital in Motion, captures this so well. Capital today is moving across borders, across sectors, across technologies in search of stability, innovation, and long-term growth. And so, the central question before investors and policymakers today is simple. Where will capital move next? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most powerful forces shaping this answer is the demographic change. Many parts of the world are experiencing aging populations and shrinking workforces. Africa presents a very different reality. By the middle of this century, 1 in 4 people on Earth will be an African. This demographic transition, when matched with the right investment, skills development, and economic policies, represents one of the most significant growth opportunities of the 21st century. But demographics alone do not determine destiny. Investment does. Today, Africa sits at the intersection of several structural transitions shaping the global economy. And one of the most important lies at the convergence of artificial intelligence, the global energy transition, and advanced technologies that will power the next generation of economic growth. These systems require vast digital infrastructure, reliable clean energy, and secure supplies of critical minerals such as lithium, cobalt, bauxite, and rare earth elements. Many of these are found in Africa. At the same time, the development and deployment of these technologies will depend on the dynamics and adaptable workforce. Africa's young and increasingly digitally connected population, therefore, presents not only a demographic shift, but a strategic advantage. A strategic advantage in a world where innovation, energy systems, and human capital are becoming deeply interconnected. For global investors, this convergence places Africa at the center of the most important economic transformations of our time. Ladies and gentlemen, for investors seeking where capital can deploy at scale, several opportunities are becoming increasingly clear. First, energy infrastructure that supports both industrial growth and global clean energy transition. Second is the digital connectivity and data infrastructure that power emerging technology ecosystems. Third, modern agriculture and food systems that are capable of feeding growing populations. Fourth, logistics and transport networks that connect regional markets and enable trade. And finally, the responsible development of critical minerals essential to global manufacturing and energy technologies. These are not theoretical opportunities. They are real investments that aim at long-term capital, technology, and partnerships that can unlock significant economic value. Increasingly, these platforms are being structured through partnerships that combine sovereign participation, development finance institutions, and private capital. When public policy, catalytic capital, and private investment work together, the result is scalable opportunities capable of attracting long-term institutional investors. Within West Africa, let me say, West Africa is emerging as one of the most strategic economic regions of the coming decades. Our region sits along major Atlantic maritime trade routes connecting the Americas, Europe, and also Africa. It possesses significant agricultural potential, growing urban markets, and important mineral resources. At the same time, regional integration through ECOWAS and the African Continental Free Trade Area is helping create larger and more connected markets where business and investors can operate at scale. For investors seeking diversification and long-term growth, West Africa is increasingly becoming a region of strategic importance. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to illustrate this opportunity through the experience of Sierra Leone, where I lead. When my administration took office, we placed human capital development at the center of our national development strategy. The truth is, sustainable economic progress always begins with people. We have therefore prioritized education, healthcare, skills development, and expanded opportunity for our young people. At the same time, we are expanding employment pathways through our youth employment scheme, one of Sierra Leone's big 5 game changers. Working with the private sector, we are creating opportunities for young people across agriculture, infrastructure, entrepreneurship, and skills-based industries. We are also investing in digital transformation, expanding broadband connectivity, and strengthening digital public services so that the young Sierra Leoneans can participate fully in the global digital economy. Another pillar of development agenda is the empowerment of women. Through the Gender Equality and Women's Empowerment Act of 2022, Sierra Leone strengthened legal frameworks to increase the participation of women in leadership, employment, and also access to finance. Agriculture also remains central to our economic transformation. Through our Feed Salon initiative, we are modernizing agriculture through technology, mechanization, and stronger value chains, strengthening food security while opening new opportunities for investment across the agricultural economy. At the same time, Sierra Leone is responsibly developing its mineral resources, strengthening infrastructure, expanding value addition in sectors such as bauxite, iron ore, rutile, and critical minerals. We are also strengthening our energy sector to support long-term economic growth. Our offshore basin remains one of the most promising underexplored petroleum frontiers along the West Africa Transform margin. As global demand for secure and diversified energy supplies evolve, Sierra Leone is working responsibly to develop its oil and gas potential in ways that support domestic power generation, industrial development, and regional energy security. For long-term investors, policy certainty matters as much as the opportunity. Sierra Leone is therefore strengthening the regulatory framework, improving the ease of doing business, and working closely with development finance institutions to ensure that investment platforms are transparent, predictable, and also globally competitive. Our objective is simple here: to create an enabling environment where responsible capital can deploy with confidence and grow in our economy. Because capital ultimately moves where institutions are strengthening, where policies are predictable, and where governments are committed to long-term transformation. Ladies and gentlemen, periods of global change are often create the most significant investment opportunities. As capital reallocates in response to geopolitical shifts, technological disruptions, and demographic transformation, new economic frontiers inevitably emerge, and Africa falls in that category. But I was not happy this morning when there was so much discussion about global economy, and there was not even a mistake of mentioning Africa. Africa is increasingly one of those frontiers. For long-term institutional investors, the most attractive markets are those where structural growth, natural resources, and human capital converge. Africa represents one of the few regions in the world where all the three are aligned simultaneously. As global capital searches for stable, long-term duration opportunities in energy, infrastructure, food systems, and digital connectivity, Africa is emerging not simply as a frontier market, but as a strategic investment destination. The institutions and investors who partner with Africa today will help shape industries, supply chains, and growth platforms that define the global economy of tomorrow. Markets are rarely built by observers, so let's not be observers. They are actually built by early partners who recognize structural opportunity and help shape it. Across West Africa and Sierra Leone, the foundation for the next phase of growth are already being laid. Those who engage early will not only participate in that growth, they will help define it. As I close, Africa is seeking capital that is not seeking capital that simply moves through our economies. We are seeking partners who build with us industries, infrastructure, opportunity, and create lasting prosperity. The opportunities are rare. The potential is enormous. And the moment, ladies and gentlemen, is now. So my message to global investors gathered here today is simple. Look at Africa with a new lens, if not with a pair of fresh eyes. See it not as a collection of risk, but as a continent of opportunity. Let's build it together. Partnership, we endure. Because when capital moves with societies rather than simply through them, it creates lasting value for investors, for communities, and the global economy. And as capital continues to move across the world in search of future, let me leave you with this thought. Africa is not waiting for the future. Africa is actually building that future. And therefore, we invite you to be part of this construction. Thank you. Great opportunity for the world and Africa if we invest in skills development and make sure that they can help the global community as most of the West is experiencing aging population. So Africa, being a young and fast-growing population, provides the greatest opportunity of our time, especially when most of the West and many other parts of the world are aging.
What will turn Africa's demographics into real economic power, in your opinion, Mr. President?
I've touched on that already. It's investment. We have to make sure that these young people are empowered with the knowledge of today. Fit-for-purpose education that we align with what we need today. AI, technology, entrepreneurship. These are the things that we need to be able to move to the next. And so for me, the most important investment in these people should be education, making sure that what I have called human capital development is a combination of education, which feeds the brain, but also health that takes care of the structure, but also the what we call food security, which is to make sure that we are properly fit for purpose for everything that the world throws at us. The world is navigating a very difficult moment, and For me, education is the compass, the navigational skills so that we can successfully get to our destination.
You just mentioned that in your conclusion, but why Africa's moment is finally here and is not just a promise?
Well, when you combine the sheer amount of critical minerals that we have, which is needed, and you combine the demographic momentum, and also the other opportunities in terms of infrastructure, entrepreneurship, skill, the creativity of these young people, but also entrepreneurship, you will realize that it is a unique, that convergence of opportunities is good for growth right across the continent, but also in the world.
In your opinion, Mr. President, what is the missing link between population growth and real prosperity?
Investment. Real population growth means nothing. Demographics does not mean anything. It means that we have to make them fit for purpose for the world in which we live. We have to equip them with, again, I use this word, the navigational tools to be able to navigate an extremely complex and evolving world in which we live today. Without that, they are going to be lost and they are going to be part of the liability of society. And today, we have boundaries. We can attempt to move people. But again, like capital, people move towards opportunities, an environment that is great. So we can attempt to shift them, but they will always come back. So let's educate them where they are, give them the tools to contribute to national development, but also to global economy, and that will make them meaningful citizens of the world. They have to be global nomads, people who roam the world with ideas, skills, and the energy, the creativity, but also the technical skills to contribute wherever they find themselves.
Like you this morning, and as someone who was born in Africa, I was disappointed to not hear Africa being mentioned. So what does the world still misunderstand about Africa?
I think we have to speak up, Africa. You have to create platforms like this for us to come and tell the world that there is a place called Africa, and it is the source of most of the critical minerals. It still holds the great potential to feed the world, and that we have great people there who only need to be invested in.
Can you attract investment without strong institutions, Mr. President?
We are building those institutions. We know that capital is shy of a lot of things: instability, lack of predictability, policy uncertainty, the many hurdles and over-regulation of the economy, too much taxes, especially corporate tax. So these are all things that we are working on. And in Sierra Leone in particular, we have done quite a bit on that one. You can register a company in 24 hours. We have one of the lowest corporate taxes in West Africa. We are the second most peaceful country in West Africa and fifth most peaceful country in the whole of Africa. So the conditions exist to invite you, but it's beckoning, but we need to maybe amplify that beckoning so that all the world can see and come and be part of us to build. We don't just want to be a source of raw materials. That is what is happening. And we talk about the global economy. We want to fuel it with African resources, but we are not talking about Africa as a place where value addition can take place and also support the world.
What could happen, Mr. President, if global capital doesn't show up in Africa very fast?
We are going to continue to, like I told you, we are going to continue to build the future for ourselves. It may be slow, but I know that capital will always go where the conditions exist for profit, and we are going to create that environment so that it becomes so inviting that the world will have to turn up in Africa.
Is, in your opinion, the world offering Africa's partnership or just conditions, aids?
Lately, they are offering partnerships. We have in Sierra Leone in particular, especially with the United States, we have had a lot of approaches and we are working on those partnerships, public-private partnerships that will transform the economy. So the days of conditions are not much. I think we can dialogue. This is a great platform for dialogue, like we said today. Dialogue is the beginning. We humanize. You put your case, I put my case. We can only talk about a deal when it's comfortable. So we also have to present our case in a more rational way and ones that make it possible for investors to view it as a place.
And if Africa leverages its demographics, how powerful can it become?
I mean, 1 in 4 people is going to be African. That is no mean feat. I believe that we have the power to not only develop Africa, but also to share that creativity, especially of the young people, with the world. Before we have done it, and we can do it in a more creative and mutually beneficial way today, where Africa gets to benefit, the world gets to benefit, and we all make progress together. We cannot afford to work in silos and think that it's going to work. Development, prosperity must be shared so that the world will be at peace.
If we look at the world map, your country, Sierra Leone, is probably one of the closest country to the American continent. If we look, it's almost straight. So what do you have to say to the potential American and Latin America investors?
Well, we are sitting right across the Atlantic, and we have a lot to share in common, and we are calling in the potential partners in the United States and especially across Latin America that we can work together. And at scale, we are also involving governance at scale in such a way that we are creating the conditions necessary for them to come. And I can assure anybody that goes into Sierra Leone that I will not only help you to get registered, but we will accompany you through the many processes so that you become a registered business, but also have returns on your investment and to be able to repatriate it. We are doing that for a few companies that are there, and we want to invite the world to come there. We are prepared. Sierra Leone is open for partnership, and that is all we have to say to them.
Mr. President, you are not just the president of Sierra Leone, you are not just an African leader. Your country had a seat for almost 3 years at the UN Security Council. What did you learn from that experience?
The world is complex. There's much that goes on that we, the ordinary people, when we are out of that chamber, don't see. But that is for us to discuss. It's quite an enormous task. And navigating these complexities is what we have to master in order for us to have a world that is equitable, that we share. There's so much wealth, but it is limited to a few countries. And the world is not going to be at peace if we do not share, because boundaries should not be separation walls. They are actually lines of cooperation. That is what they should serve. We should share in this the creativity that other countries have had the opportunity of taking to higher levels. So Africa is the place, I think, for investors with a vision. I will invite you to be ahead of the curve, to pre-position yourself there, so that by the time the world realizes, you would have been far gone. We are going to make sure that Africa moves.
And ladies and gentlemen, if I have just a little advice to give you, just visit Sierra Leone because the capital has a fantastic name, Freetown. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for His Excellency, the President of Sierra Leone. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you.